two, three. Take me out to the ball game. Take me out to the crowd. Buy me some peanuts and Cracker Jack. I don't care if I ever get back. Oh, it's root for the Cubbies. If they don't win, it's a shame. For it's 1, 2, 3 strikes, you're out at the old ball game. Hey!
This is
the Monday Morning Quarterback on the 22nd of July, 2019. Beaming from WBRN Radio and on the Boston Red Network. This is Boston Red here in the Jerry Pippin Memorial broadcast booth as we normally are. An interesting week ahead. The NAACP is having its convention in Detroit, Michigan, the hometown of Representative Tlaib, that one of the 4 young women that was singled out by DJ Trump. She is the congressman that represents the city of Detroit. That's the historic seat that John Conyers held over many years there. So the NAACP is there. They have 10,000 people at their convention. They'll have a forum where various candidates from the Democratic Party will appear, and they will answer questions from the audience and from people that follow the NAACP. We'll attempt to cover that as much as possible there. DJ Trump, like President Reagan, is not appearing. He claimed scheduled conflict, but in a slip, he basically said he didn't want to deal with the Q&A. Well, it's a strategic mistake on his part, because first of all, he could have made a perfunctory address there, and then the Q&A, he wouldn't have lost anything on it. If he received hostile questioning, that would have been good for his base. If he received just questioning, that would have been good for the country. So his political advisors made a mistake by not having it in the ACP. But this, what is happening here is it further ostracizes his campaign from African Americans. Now, as Carl Rove was talking about in Florida with Stacey Abrams, he brought forth in his latest column, it was in the Wall Street Journal, about African American males and how some voted against Stacey Abrams because of her stand on equality for women. That in itself would have been a mistake. There was no, as we've seen from the crosstabs, no substantial number there, but that has been a point of some exploitation. But in particularly in Georgia, with the right winger that was running there in Georgia, and the conditions there, an African American male that voted for the Secretary of State, well, get these characters all mixed up, in the state of Georgia, you have a Secretary of State there, would have been a major error on the part of any African American. That's the same proposition he put forth about Latinos at DJ Trump rallies. Well, there would be very few Latinos. I'm not certain in what state. If you were talking about in Florida, perhaps there would be some. There's historically been right-wing communities in Florida, in the Cuban community, so you'd have some, but not very many, that publicly appeared there at his rally. So in other words, basically the way that DJ Trump has presented his program, there is nothing there for either Latinos or African Americans or any other community of color, for that matter, unless they are entrepreneurial, and that would depend upon in which sector they happen to be in at any given time. It's the same situation that falls with women there. Haley was talking about Haley was talking about women and how women would vote for DJ Trump. Well, and no doubt there was a section of the women's vote that he carried, primarily women that were married and some segment in this is 2016. Working class European women. He was able to carry those people that they voted for DJ Trump. Not unusual. The same people that voted for Ronald Reagan. So again, that particular vote is not in itself an aberration. It has been done before, and no doubt it will be done again, but not in as great numbers. If you look at 2018, and that was a congressional election, a little different. One thing to note is a national election is different from where you have congressional or House seats available. Totally different there. More politics, local in those instances. National election is a nationalized election. So we look to the states, that are out there. For the Republicans, Ohio, no doubt, is a trendsetter. They have to carry Ohio. Florida of late years has been going back to G.W. Bush and his thievery of stealing the state from Albert Gore of Tennessee. Go back to 2000. It has been historic there. Barack Obama carried Florida twice. So again, he took it off of their plate. Another state that they have to do well in, continue to do well in, is Texas. So it's about Ohio, Texas, and Florida. Those are states that they must do well. They, the GOP, and they must carry those states. In the event they don't carry Florida, they're in trouble. That's literally what it's all about. As far as in the Midwest states, that in itself is a totally different situation in the Midwest. You have states there like Wisconsin, you have Pennsylvania, and Michigan. Roughly about less than 80,000 votes were at stake there. If you have if it turns into a high turnout election, there's definitely a disadvantage for the Republican Party there and DJ Trump. So that's something to look to and see where it's going. Let me just look. I was looking at some polling numbers now. Obviously, these polling numbers are early in the ball game. They are polling numbers that out of YouGov, and let me just get them here and get my glasses on here. This is CBS News, YouGov. YouGov, of course, is a computerized poll in the state of Iowa. Joe Lunchbox Biden is up by 5. He has 24 in this poll. Liz Warren at 17, Bernie at 19. Senator Harris at 16. They're kind of bunched up together, and then you go into the single digits here. Buttigieg at 7, Amy Klobuchar at 4. She's doing better. Booker at 3. This organization is starting to pay off. Beto O'Rourke at 1. This is in the state of Iowa. In New Hampshire, again, Joe Lunchbox Biden is up by 7 single digits here. Liz Warren at 18. Bernie Sanders at 12. And Kamala Harris at Bernie at did I say Bernie at 20? Kamala Harris at 12. Buttigieg is in single digits here at 7. Beto is at 2. Amy Klobuchar at 1. We go to South Carolina now. It's a different situation there, but some things we're looking at in the CBS poll. We have Joe Lunchbox Biden at 39. Bernie at 17 and Liz Warren at 12 and Harris at 12 there. Buttigieg again in the single digits at 5. Senator Booker at 3 there, and a bunch of others there. Let's see, Williamson at 1, Amy Klobuchar at 1. This is South Carolina. And then we go to California, very close. It's going to be close, neck and neck there. Senator Harris should carry California in the primary. Anyway, we have Biden at 24, Harris at 23. Statistical tie there. Liz Warren at 19, Bernie at 16, Buttigieg again in single digits at 6 in this poll, and Amy Klobuchar at 1. Now 1 is good for Amy Klobuchar here, And with various others, Castro, period, we go to the state of Texas. Biden is up by 10 in the state of Texas, 27-17 for Beto O'Rourke. Liz Warren is at 16 there, right behind Beto, and then Bernie at 12, Harris at 12. All of these, Warren, Sanders, and Harris in a statistical tie there. One of the judges in the single digits there at 4. Amy Klobuchar at 1. Gillibrand at 1. Gillibrand's good for her. And they don't have anything to say to Booker now. That is CBS, a YouGov poll. And it was on, let's see, that would have been on Sunday, I believe that poll came out. Saturday or Sunday. And on Friday now, this is a Rasmussen Republican poll here. I thought it was interesting in that they matched up on Castro and DJ Trump. DJ Trump is up by 6. This is a general election national poll. And Julian Castro is at 40, so by 6 in the single digits. This does tell us some things are coming about here. The approval rating in this one was at 50. Now we go to the Cadillac of approval rating polls. Gallup had DJ Trump at 44. Reuters had him at 44 also there. And Wrong Track is up by 27. This is from Reuters here. And let's see, what else do we have? Well, if we go back to Wednesday, again, we won't give this because it's another YouGov economist poll here. Biden again in single digits. So the takeaway here is that Biden is moving into single digits in New Hampshire, in Iowa, and that will tighten up as we move closer to the fall, and there are more and more debates coming. That is one of the things we can look forward to. There's no doubt about that particular situation in the state of Iowa. This is from Reuters. DJ Trump claims that the 4 Congress women should apologize to America. That is just nothing but rhetoric, and it has no place in a civilized society. That is one of the situations there. The longtime DA in New York has passed Robert Margolieff at 99. He was around literally forever. Demonstrations are continuing in Puerto Rico. The governor there, they are demonstrating against him. A transcript of some lurid comments by him that were sexist, and comments about people that were able to survive Hurricane Maria. And this is a very sad situation in Puerto Rico. The governor there, Rosa, said that he will not seek re-election. In our opinion, he is on his way out. He will not be around a very long there, period. And another from Reuters here. We've been following this story here. This is a refinery in Philadelphia. It filed for bankruptcy. Energy Solutions on its way out, period. So we're just looking at some of the headlines here from Reuters. And Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez appeared in Queens. Her district is both in the Bronx and in Queens, and basically she told her constituents she is there and that is where she is from. And it's a situation that doesn't bow very well for DJ Trump, because send her back where she came from. Well, she's back in Queens. DJ Trump is also from Queens. That type of rhetoric is interesting, but it's a bit outdated. And that is one of the things to follow throughout this campaign. Is the rhetoric itself, is it dated or is it not dated? Is it up to date? Make America great again, keep America great. Is that old-fashioned? And this is one of the big things that you are constantly looking at on terms of the rhetoric itself. Let me just We still incidentally have a program on Identity Politics USA. We will air it looking to so-called, this is Salon here, we'll use some of the articles, so-called white identity politics, very good article here, and this is by Chauncey De Vega. A political science here, Ashley Jordiner, how a bunch of dangerous myths brought us a president, quote unquote, for white people, European people. Anyway, but you want to do that, we'll get back to it later in the ball game, and not at this point in our ball game. We'll get back there later. So we incidentally also have planned a special on the Hall of Fame, Cooperstown. We've been working on it for some time, and we'll get it out there to you. And let me see just a second here. Something we don't talk about as much. We'll have a numbers man presentation coming up here. But this is the latest now. This is from the Washington Post. Emerging budget deal likely to include a few no actual spending cuts while lifting the debt limit for 2 years. This is by Erica Vina. Anyway, White House congressional negotiators rushed to hammer out the final details. Now, this is the debt limit is lifted for 2 years. They used to do multiple year deals, so effectively that takes it out of an election year. The agreement appears likely to mark a retreat for White House officials who demanded major spending cuts exchanged for new budget deal. The process remains, of course, in limbo, so hold the seats. The pending deal would seek to extend the debt ceiling and set new spending levels for 2 years, ratcheting back the brinkmanship out there. But instead of $150 billion in new spending cuts recently demanded by the White House, the agreement would include a significantly lower amount of reductions, and those reductions aren't expected to actually represent actual spending cuts. Details remain, of course, fluid. In practical terms, the budget agreement would increase spending by tens of billions of dollars in the next 2 years, a stark reversal from the White House budget request, as some White House officials backed away for demands for cuts. They want to shift to trying to block an attempt by Democrats to restructure funding for a wall. Now, you don't hear very much about the wall anymore, and the reason for that is the flow of immigrants in the very hot seasons has tempered, and it does. It flows up and down, and also a number of immigrants asylum immigrants are remaining in California. So they'll still be arguing over the wall a little bit. A central focus of the budget agreement would be the suspension of the debt ceiling for 2 years, forestalling what many budget experts believe to be a catastrophic default. And no doubt about that, the government slated to run out of money in September. The agreement is expected to see new overall spending levels for 2020 and 2021. Now, 2020 being an election year, 2021 being a transition year. What's up in the air now? Will 2021 see DJ Trump a totally different president? Well, that'll have to be decided. Agreeing on new spending levels avoids an ominous budget cap that would otherwise snap into place under the Obama-era deal, slashing $126 billion from domestic and Pentagon budgets. They had an automatic budget agreements on budget limits. Budget caps have been long sought by lawmakers in both parties. If the deal is finalized, Pelosi would have less than a week to muscle it through the House before the chamber adjourns for a 6-week summer recess. On Friday, the Senate will be in session for an additional week after the House departs. So it's a situation that they are leaving, and for the senators that are running, they will have about a week to get everything in order so they can literally get out of town. It's good work if you can find it. Another article I saw here, and hopefully we can get it up here, is Bakersfield. Hadn't been to Bakersfield in a long time, but once the blood of jokes is booming, and so are many other inland cities in the state of California. For this pass-through city along jokes are there. The Highway 99 races through almond groves, oil fields, then bends north towards the Fresno flat croplands of the Central Valley. Its high speed vantage provides a blurry view of bobbing derricks, storage, fast food billboards, the city there, and between the sunny coast and the Sierras. Exit 13, it tells people we are not just a jack in the box. Many Californians often dismiss inland cities as Bakersfield, Fresno, Merced, and other drive-through towns that seldom make the tourist map. But there is a transformation happening in the Central Valley. These are second-tier cities, once primarily known as the core of the nation's agricultural engine, are drawing new businesses, younger people from cosmopolitan enclaves. The dynamic underscores the priority of the Governor Newsom. In recent years, California's traditional north-south rivalry has given way to an east-west divide over government policies and resources. Soon after taking office, Newsom placed a coastal leg of the state's budget, high rail system, on hold. At the same time, he affirmed that the 119-mile stretch linking Bakersfield and the Central Valley city of Merced would be first to proceed. The project cost $20.4 billion. We don't have two Californias. This is his chief economic advisor and business advisor, Lenny Madonna, who was raised in Turlock. California's population grew at 0.47 last year, the lowest rate in state's history. But here in Bakersfield, the growth was more than double, making the city of 400,000 the second fastest growing city there. I thought it was 500,000, but anyway. The median age of a resident in Bakersfield is over 30 years of age, and there's been a culture here marked for decades by the Bakersfield sound. You can hear that. Buck Owens, Merle Haggard, who adorned major avenues and hallmarks, and how to make the era of hee-haw, no doubt. So now you have yoga and things of that nature out there. Our community needs to learn to love itself, as one Jacqueline Kitchen, a Bakersfield native, proud millennium, who at 35 was just named an assistant manager there in Bakersfield. There's a drug problem, a homicide problem, a homeless problem. Interesting. Which last year prompted unusually conservative voters to approve a sales tax increase to address them. It was revealed that more than 1,300 barrels of oil and water had spilled since May from a Chevron Run field outside of Bakersfield. And the hotel, this is a hotel opened in 1928, a luxury spot for Bakersfield oil-type characters, and has been shuttered for years. The Padra, I suppose, reopened as a boutique type of thing in 2010. Pop art design of a cowboy girl looking over her shoulder. Anyway, not sure what all that is about. After graduating from Ridgeview High School. Oh, this is Rachel Parrier. right there. The university, she graduated from San Diego State University, where she majored in marketing, and so she returned to Bakersfield. They even have a minor league hockey team. San Diego, along with Los Angeles, Frisco, posts the highest inflation rates of any city in the country during the past years. Housing prices, in particular, are driving the increase. The median housing price in Bakersfield, $237,000, and $1.2 million in San Francisco. Start up off at a bunk in a bunk bed for $1,200 in San Francisco. Only in San Francisco could that happen. Hotels are being built across the city. 3 more are in a planning stage in Bakersfield. Anyway, that's Bakersfield there. It is renting there for 3 times the amount. He's talking about paying less. This is 27 square feet with a pool in Bakersfield. Ortaz and his wife, 2 children, now 6 and 7. Ortaz says they will remain in the Silicon Valley. If they remained, they probably would now be considering starting a family. Ortaz works in the city of Bakersfield new branding program. The goal is a broader economy in Bakersfield. They still have the oil field and they're still agricultural. The city's fledgling tech industry, unbelievable there. When Bitwise, that's a Fresno-based technology hub, announced plans to open a new operation in Bakersfield. Bakersfield kind of reminds me of maybe North Dakota, someplace like that. Yeah, but Bakersfield is a little different. Bakersfield has agriculture, and it's been there for a very long time. I remember once visiting, of all things, a watermelon farm in Bakersfield. Anyway, that was Bakersfield, and country music, half million people, a totally different city. That's why we thought we would bring it forward and look at it. Let's do some baseball scores. This is from last night. The Rockies 8-4 over the Yankees in New York. The Red Sox was shut out by the Orioles in Baltimore, 5-0. The White Sox and Rays, it was a Rays 4-2 over the Sox in Florida. Cleveland 5-4 over Kansas City. Of course, Kansas City has been in the cellar. And in 10, the Tigers 4-3 over the Blue Jays. 2 teams are going nowhere. The Cardinals pulled one off, 3-1 over the Reds in Cincy. And in 11, the Phillies beat their cross-state rivals, the Pirates, 2-1. And the Rangers and Astros, it was Astros, a battle of Texas, Astros 5-3. The Twins beat the Athletics in Minnesota 7-6. The Twins had 13 hits, no errors, and the Athletics 7 hits and 1 error. The Padres and the Cubs in Wrigley Field. It was the Padres 5-1. Of course, the Padres are doing nothing in the West. The Mets and the Giants in San Francisco, it was the Giants 3-2. The Marlins and Dodgers, a game that I tuned into. The Dodgers shut the Marlins out 9-0. The Brewers and D-backs in Arizona, it was the Brewers 7-4. Still a race in the Central of the National League, still going there. Cubbies, Brewers, Cardinals as usual. The Angels and the Mariners in Seattle, it was the Angels 9-3. The Nationals in Atlanta. Atlanta 7-1 there. So that is the state of baseball as we look at it. The British Open is now history, and let me see, all the big names left town, literally, out of the Open. So again, the Open there, Sean Laurie was the winner. He won the opener. Brooks Koepka there played into that. So again, that's pretty much where we were. Laurie shot of 15. I'm just looking at it here. ESPN just looking to see what the women's soccer league, the Red Stars 2-1 over, and this is some major matches on Sunday. Atlanta and DC United. It was Atlanta 2-0 over DC United. New England 2-0 over Cincy. The New York Red Bulls 1-0 over Orlando. And finally, Portland 2-1 over Seattle. That is that particular league, and that will do it for sports. We'll see you with some special presentations. The induction at Cooperstown, we have that coming up, and we also have Identity Politics USA. We'll get that up. We're working on a Numbers Man. We'll get a Numbers Man report up probably today or tomorrow. And we'll start on an open source report. So at WBRN, we're always busy there. This is Boston Red, the Jared Pippin broadcast booth on the 22nd of July 2019. Good day. Take care. You can incidentally find us on Twitter. You can find us on Stitcher, iHeartRadio, the RSS feed, Google Podcasts, and points in between. You can find us in those places, and I think we remembered. We'll do it again. Elijah Paul Green, he was the first African American player for the Red Sox. He walked to the plate. That was in 1959 in Boston. He was cheered there. I got my helmet, started walking up to home plate. I got a standing ovation, he recalls. That was in a 1997 Globe interview. He needed not had word. The pitcher for Kansas City that day was someone he had faced in the minors. Green hit a triple off of him towards left field and center field. Mr. Green, an infielder who made his first major league appearance with Boston. So Ponce, how do you pronounce his name? He was 85 years old. He died Wednesday night, and he hit 244 in 327 games before being traded to the Mets. That was him being 63. The Red Sox were the last team, last of all white major league teams. They're integrating a dozen years after Jackie Robinson broke the color line in Brooklyn. Pumpsy Green occupied a special place in our history as from the principal owner, John Henry, who also owns the Boston Globe. He was, and by his own admission, a reluctant pioneer, but we always remember him for his grace and perseverance in becoming our first African-American player. He played all the parts of 5 seasons in Boston and won with the Mets from 59 to 63, batting .247 with 13 homers and 74 RBIs. He made Red Sox history in July the 21st in 1959 in Chicago, when he was inserted in as a pinch runner for Vic Wetz in the 8th inning of a game against the White Sox. He appeared on a roster following picketing at Fenway Park in the spring training year. Green hit 400 and was hailed by some reporters as the camp's Rookie of the Year. But the question of whether Green would make the team, the owner at the time, Tom Yerke, said the Red Sox will bring up an African American when he meets our standards. When the Red Sox cut the roster to 25, Green was sent to AAA. It was I was just hitting the heck out of the ball, he recalls, in a 1997 interview. Led the team in every category you could think of, and I was having a great time. The job was mine. The Boston NAACP chapter accused the team of discrimination, and outside fans held signs, "We want a pennant, not a white team." Be a theme today. The general manager told the Massachusetts Commission Against Discrimination decision to send Green to the minors wasn't racially motivated, and promised that the Red Sox would pursue a non-discrimination policy with bringing up African American players. Now, this was Mike Huggins there, the pathway through the 1959 season. The manager who sent Green was fired, and Billy Jaggers took over. And upon arrival in, he was greeted at Logan Airport by TV cameras, photographers. Something very unusual there. He said his conversation with Yerke was brief, and just went in and sat down and talked. He remembers clearly it was the first game in Fenway on all those behind the ropes in center field, where African American experience of playing remains there. I never relaxed in Boston, he said in 1997, not long after he retired as a baseball coach at Berkeley High School. That was in California. Every game to me was like opening day. I felt pressure all the time, and some of it might have been self-imposed. Anyway, interesting here, there had been a case during also the case during the spring training of 1959, when a car picked him up every morning from the Phoenix, from a hotel 17 miles from where the Red Sox practiced in Scottsdale. A long time ago, I learned how to live with myself and by myself, he told the Globe in March. He dealt with segregation early in his career. In the minor leagues, he traveled mostly by bus. He recalled the bus would pull up to a hotel, and all the players would get off. The African American players would take a cab to what we called across the track, the African American part of town. He said the treatment didn't anger him. Sometimes it really gets to you. It was 2 or 3 in the morning, and it would be hard to find anyone up and around. We often stayed in private homes because a lot of little towns didn't have African American hotels. He lived in Dorchester while playing with the Red Sox, and the Celtics center Bill Russell sometimes brought Green to practices there. The two knew each other from Russell's time at the University of San Francisco. Elijah Jerry Green Jr. was born the 27th of October 1933 in Boley, Oklahoma. He grew up in California. His father, Elijah Sr., was a trash hauler. His mother was a homemaker. He was the oldest of 5 kids, including his brother, Cornell Green, a football safety who played for the Dallas Cowboys. He picked up the Puncy in childhood, and at 19 he signed with the Oakland Oaks in the Pacific League. In 1955, he was named the California League's most valuable player as a shortstop, and his contract was purchased by the Red Sox. After his playing years, he returned to California and degree in physical education from San Francisco State, worked as a counselor and coach at Berkeley High School. So he leaves his wife behind of 62 years, Marie, and Heidi, and 2 of her brothers, Sardell and Eddie Joe, and so forth and so on. Funeral services we held the 2nd of August at BB Memorial Cathedral in Oakland, California. In April of 2009, Mr. Green was recognized at Fenway Park for the 50th anniversary of his debut. In 2018, the debut was recognized by the Red Sox Hall of Fame induction committee, a memorable moment there, and that was Ponce Green. This is from the Boston Globe, incidentally. I believe we went over this article once before, but it's worth bringing up after we've had the inductions. On the 17th of July was when this article came out, a few days ago. Anyway, good day.